Welcome back to this episode of Smacky's Garage. Today we're going to be working on our MXZ800 Renegade. We were out sledding on it kind of a week ago, and we had an issue with the pull starter where I think the pull starter, the screws have finally completely come stripped, so that needs to get fixed. The ignition was rotating, and when we went to try and start it, the solenoid froze, so we ended up actually having to shove a stick down against the recoil to hold it in place so that we could get it running. The solenoids come unstuck again, so we were able to get it back up and running back in the garage. But here we are, and kind of you can probably see the issue where the plate is actually separating when you pull it, because the screws that were in here rattled out that were Loctited in. So what we're going to have to do is take it apart again. We're going to have to start by taking out the exhaust. We're probably just going to move the pipe a little bit, not going to take it all the way out, and kind of take out that ring to get it either drilled and retapped, or try to put some through holes in it so that I can put some nuts to hold the metric screws in place to hold the recoil against it, because we can't have the recoil vibrating off every few rides. Alright, so the first step is I'm going to remove the screws that are holding the exhaust on. I do have a special tool for that somewhere. Let me see if I can find that. So let's go ahead and pull these springs off so I can get the exhaust out. Alright, now that I have these two springs off, I'm going to take those two screws off those two nuts off down there. They're holding the exhaust up against the frame, and they're on springs, so they should come out pretty easily. I ended up replacing them kind of earlier this year. So the attachment points to the muffler, you're going to have the exhaust clamp, or the springs here. You're going to have the two bolts down here. Then you have this rubber piece here, which is kind of acting like a damper. So I'm going to be pulling this out of here, trying to see if I can get it up and past the exhaust. I should be able to do it. Might be a little bit tough, but we'll see. So I was able to hold this off here first. Let's see. Okay. Cool. Crank housing back here, that's in the way. So looks like it's coming out. It's going to get drilled, tapped one size larger, and I'm going to try to put it back together. The good news is the recoil still works when it's pushed up against it. You can probably see the scratches here from the stick. So we're going to try to take it all apart, leave the recoil together, and then drill out the pieces that we can and tap it with bottom taps. Alright, so we're going to take a look at it now. Some thread in there. Looks like that thread's pretty badly stripped. That one and that one are also pretty badly stripped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it and put it all back together. So I guess to do that, let's see, not going to be able to through hole that one. Can't through hole that one. Probably not that one. I could this one, but it's not going to hold. So they're going to have to be drilled and tapped. I believe 1, 2, 3, 4 screws should pull this plate out, and I should be able to do it off the engine. Alright, yeah, so looking at the plate, I could buy a new one, but they're probably all going to be similar. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is drilling and tapping one size larger. It looks like there is room for it, so I should be able to go down that path. So there's size here. These look like they have a little bit of an extra clearance. I believe the screws that I have in it are M6s. So we'll see what the next size up are. And, you know, I'll get this going. Hopefully get it drilled and tapped out tomorrow so that I can put it back in the sled with new hardware. So I'm going to need to drill and tap these 4 holes. I've gotten a 1/4-20 tap, the drill that goes with it. I'm going to clean these out, drill them out, and then tap them so it can go back together. Alright, time to pull this back together. So put these screws back in, and we should be able to just quickly put everything back in place and test it out. So it looks like this will only go on one way, so just need to figure out where the holes line up and put it together. Alright, so that plate's on there pretty tight, so now we can go ahead and put the recoil pull starter back on. So it should be pretty straightforward and essentially just fall into place. Let's go backwards. Let's go here and it'll go exactly like that. Alright, let's bolt it up. Alright, so the 4 screws are back in. They're all tight. I ended up using a 1/4-20 screw that was about a 1 inch long. Then I ended up using a flat washer as well as a lock washer on it. The flat washer was to give it a little bit of extra space, and the lock washer was to hold it in place. Everything went together well, so I'm going to put the muffler on and then we'll pull start it, see how it goes.